Hello and welcome to the top 10 mind characters for autoing on Bleach Brave Souls. Much like the other attributes, you can pretty much use almost any character for autoing, as it has a lot to do with how you build the character. But the following 10 stand out among the rest as some of the better mind characters to auto with. Please keep in mind this list is specifically for autoing, so even though a character might be great at PvE, it doesn't necessarily mean they'll be good for autoing. With that said, let's begin.
あらゆる手を尽くしてあなたを守ると誓いましょう。さあ、行きますよ。
We're starting things off with a White Day version of Kisuke Urahara, who has a relatively high SP as well as Frenzy, and while normally this isn't a good thing when it comes to autoing, his case is a little bit different. This is because Kisuke's Strong Attack 2 is a boost move that increases his attack, defense, and focus by 33% for 20 seconds since he has Enhancer. This allows him to deal relatively decent amount of damage with his normal attack, as well as his strong attacks due to the higher attack. Plus the rest of his strong attacks and his normal attacks could inflict debilitating paralysis, so that's a definite bonus. This boost not only affects him but the entire team as well, making him fairly decent for co-op. Finally, I do want to talk about Kisuke's durability. As I mentioned before, his defense increases by 33%, which of course does help, but more importantly, he has a stamina recovery soul trait, which I know a lot of people frown upon, but it's actually really useful when it comes to autoing. And in his particular case, it's a boosted 25%, so with the right accessory, you can pretty much get half of his health back every time he enters a new area. So yeah, he has a lot of things going for him. Unfortunately, he doesn't have the best range on his normal attack, and when it's not boosted, it does deal a decent amount of damage, but not that much, which is why I only put him at number 10 on this list.
邪魔はさせない。蒼天に座せ氷林丸。
At number 9 on the list is Sojuro Kusaka, who has a really high attack of 748, as well as a plus 40 bruiser. This means Kusaka's gonna do quite a bit of damage, and he'll be able to handle a lot of damage as well, thanks to his damage reduction soul trait that can be stacked up to 76%. He can also inflict debilitating freeze on his normal attack as well as all of his strong attacks, which includes his strong attack 2 that's a vortex move, and while it's not a long duration one, it does do a good job of gathering enemies together, and due to the high hit count has a high probability of inflicting freeze. His strong attack 1 also has a decent probability of inflicting freeze due to its high hit count, and his strong attack 3, while not full screen, does have really good range. With all that said, he does have a major flaw, and that's in his killer. As he only has a captain killer, there's only so much damage he can do when it comes to inheritance zones and droplet zones. That said, thanks to his damage reduction, he can still be usable in these quests, though sadly he may not be the fastest choice. Next up is the second resurrection character to ever make it on a list, the fully holified version of Ichigo Kurosaki, who has the highest attack for any resurrected character so far of 755. Plus he has a plus 40 bruiser and a plus 20 nadlink, making his normal attack damage output pretty high. Plus on top of his high attack, he's also got a relatively high SP, at least as far as high attack characters go, and you can bet he's gonna put it to good use. His strong attack 1 is a vortex move, and his strong attack 2 has a 160 mag, both of which are not bad for a Nad character to have. Plus he has a fairly decent speed and range for his normal attack, and because he's a resurrected character, he gets a second soul trait, and in my opinion, his makes him one of the best links in the entire game. This is because his second soul trait is a last ditch survival rate of 80%. This means that once this character is defeated, there's an 80% chance that he'll come back to life. Granted, it's not at full health, but with a stamina recovery link and the right accessories, that can easily be fixed. This soul trait's really useful when it comes to getting through a raid, but also when it comes to fighting the boss, as many of the bosses have instant kill moves, and being able to come back from the dead from those can make the difference between finishing the quest or not. Sadly though, this is an older character, so his strong attacks don't have the best range, which can kinda suck when you're having to break some guards. Plus in addition to being a soul reaper, he's also a hollow, and while this is useful in Senkaimon, it's not so useful when it comes to autoing, since it gives the enemies more killers to play with. Still, it's really amazing that K-Lab was able to take an old character and make him relevant again.
逃げても無駄だよ。最高難易度存分に楽しんでよね。
Next on the list is the Minecraft version of Uchiyo. Fun fact, did you know his middle name is Hans? I've never met a Hans. Anyway, he has a pretty high attack as well as a pretty high SP. He also has a plus 40 bruiser and a plus 20 nadlink, as well as a plus 30 berserker. The reason I do want to point out his berserker and his high SP is because he's actually a hybrid character, and his strong attacks do come in handy when it comes to autoing. His strong attack 1 fires a beam forward, his strong attack 2 is a vortex move that surrounds him, which both protects him and deals damage to the enemies, and his strong attack 3 is a hybrid vortex move that gathers enemies in one spot. Uchiyo can also inflict debilitating paralysis on all of these strong attacks, and his strong attacks 2 and 3 in particular have a high chance of inflicting them since they hit so many times. That being said, while his attack is decent, it's not as high as most of the other characters on this list, so the actual damage output for his normal attack isn't going to be as high as them. Still, it is fairly impressive, and because he's a human, you're not really going to bump into a situation where an enemy has a killer on you. Next on the list is manga Sajin, a character with a ridiculous 762 attack as well as a plus 20 Nadlink and Flurry, making his total damage output ridiculous, as there's not very many characters with both Flurry and a Nadlink. In addition to having Flurry, he also has Poise, meaning the only way to really stop him is to either kill him, freeze him, or stun him. This also means he's gonna complete raids a lot faster than the average character, since it means he doesn't have to worry about staggering from any hit the enemy lands. Now, Sajin also has another quality about him, though I'm not necessarily sure I can count that for the auto list, since you kinda have to use his special to activate it. Still, assuming you use the special at the beginning of the raid, the final attack on his normal attack string gets an extra boost in range, so he'll be able to hit enemies that are a little far away at the end of every attack string. Honestly, it's the insane damage that he brings to the table that ended up landing on spot on this list, though unfortunately he does have a downside, and that's in his killer. Sajin has an Espada killer, and much like Kusaka's Captain killer, it's really not that useful in inheritance zones and droplet zones. That said, unlike Kusaka, he does have Flurry and a Nadlink to deal a lot more damage to the enemies, so it's not like you can't take him there anyway.
これで指名だ。てめえの相手をしてる暇はねえ。はっ！
So while the previous 5 characters were really good at autoing, the following 5 are absolutely insane, and we're starting things off with Chewy Hisagi, the tag team version to be more specific, since the other one is not that great. He has a really high attack of 765, as well as a plus 50 bruiser and a plus 20 Nadlink. This makes his overall damage increase 70%, and he actually has a decent killer. And I say a decent killer because in addition to having a hollow killer, he also has a captain killer, which actually makes him pretty useful when it comes to having a raid with hollows and a captain as a boss. So I guess the captain killer can come in handy. Shuei is also ranged, which is really good for autoing, plus he's really fast at attacking, and while his strong attacks don't deal that much damage, they are actually extremely useful to him. His strong attack 1 has a small chance to inflict debilitating paralysis, while his strong attack 2 is a crawling vortex move that helps push enemies away, and his strong attack 3 is a hybrid vortex move that gathers enemies in one spot and preps him for the upcoming onslaught. Now, as I mentioned earlier, he is ranged. While this makes him more reliable to finish a quest because he can deal damage from a distance, it also makes him a little slower than characters who are not. So it's just something to think about when you're building your team. There's honestly nothing negative I can say about this character though, and honestly when it comes to dealing with hollows, he's easily the best one on this list.
さっさと型をつけようぜ。
月がテスラー
As I mentioned, the final 5 are all really amazing. Shuei and Ichigo in particular are really close. Still, I gotta say Ichigo is just a little bit better. Not only is he currently tied with the highest attack in the game, but he also has a boosted 25 Nadlink and a plus 50 bruiser, making his overall magnification increase 75% on his own. Ichigo is also ranged, meaning he can deal all this damage from a distance, and the final attack on his normal attack string has a 360% mag. Granted, it does split off in 3 directions, but that just gives him more range, and if it's up close to a specific enemy, it's gonna deal a lot of damage. While he doesn't have the highest SP, he's also got useful strong attacks. His strong attack 1 is a beam move, his strong attack 3 is a full screen attack, and his strong attack 2 is a vortex move that gathers enemies in one spot before pushing them back. It's one of the best things you can give a character like this that works best from a distance, as it not only pushes the enemies back, but also rapidly increases the combo, allowing you to deal more damage in the future. I was honestly hoping that the second Ichigo we got from the Lost Agent series would be the actual Fullbring one. That said, this one did not disappoint.
派手にいっちゃおうじゃないの。さあ、今度はどう遊ぼうか。
At number 3 on the list is Shunsui Kyoraku, who, as I'm recording this, I'm still honestly tempted to put him higher, because he's just that good. Not only does he have a really high attack, but he also has a plus 50 bruiser and a plus 20 nadling. And while yes, we've seen this before, he also happens to have poise, which is definitely a bit more rare. Plus, he's also got a complete immunity to paralysis, meaning that now the only way to stop him would be to freeze him or kill him. Paralysis and freeze are the two biggest threats when it comes to autoing, so being completely immune to one of them is definitely a bonus. And while he doesn't have the highest SP, he does have pretty useful strong attacks. They have really good range, and his strong attack 3 is a vortex move that puts enemies in one spot, allowing Shunsui that bring in more damage. Honestly, under the right circumstances, he can easily be the fastest character on this list, since he will not stagger and he's completely immune to paralysis.
ようやくまともにやり合う気になったようだな。
At number 2 on the list is White Zangetsu, who has a really high attack of 755 as well as a plus 50 bruiser and a plus 20 nadling. And while yes, his attack is a bit lower than the last few characters on this list, he actually has the potential to deal more damage than them, since all of his strong attacks have a chance to inflict debilitating weakening. In addition to that, they're also really well suited for this character. His strong attack 1 has some really crazy range, his strong attack 2 is a vortex move that surrounds him, it doubles as a shield and is very likely to inflict debilitating weakening, and his strong attack 3 was one of the very first hybrid vortex moves. It not only has a high probability of inflicting weakening, but also sets all of the enemies up for the upcoming onslaught that is his normal attack, which by the way is incredibly fast and has really good range. In fact, it may be one of the best normal attack strings in the game. Now with all this said, he does have the same flaw that full hollow Ichigo has, and that's that he's also a hollow. But really all this means is that you'll have to be a little bit more picky on where you can take him. And even when killers are going against him, he'll still do really well. I know that from experience. And it's why he ended up so high on this list.
サンタテレサラダニア跡形もなく刻まれて死ね
Finally, at number 1, we have Noitora Gilga, who is truly a force to be reckoned with. He not only has a really high attack, but he's also got poise and flurry, meaning he will not stagger and his damage output's gonna be absolutely insane. In addition to this, he's also got a strong attack 2 that's a boost move. But it's not just any ordinary boost move. Much like manga Ichigo, his also transforms him, and it changes his magnifications on his normal attacks and his strong attacks. His strong attacks go from being a 120 mag to a 140 mag, and his normal attacks go from being a 100, 100, 120 mag to a 110, 110, 140 mag. And that's on top of his increase of attack of 33%. Granted, this only lasts 10 seconds because he doesn't have an enhancer, but that's 10 seconds where your attacks are dealing more damage, and you and your entire team have an extra 33% increase in defense as well. In addition to this, Noitora's normal attack, strong attack 1 and strong attack 3 all have a chance to inflict debilitating paralysis, which can definitely come in handy when autoing. Plus his strong attacks are really quick to activate. If all this wasn't great enough, Noitora also starts off the raid with 10 barriers, so he's basically immune for 10 hits for the first 20 seconds of the raid. To top it all off, he's also got a damage reduction soul trait that can be stacked up to 76%, so you know he's gonna be durable in these raids. Honestly, the only downside to this character is that he has a captain killer, but even that doesn't stop him from being an absolute monster in the raids, while also being incredibly durable, and that's why he's at number 1. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, hit like and subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned for some more top 10 lists.